Hi, I'm Natasha,
And I'm Cory.
and this is our podcast. We are not.
Afraid.
Welcome, everyone. This is our third episode, and we'll be talking today about horror movie remakes. Not sequels, but actual remakes, usually with the same concept, but just different writers, different directors, different producers. So, today we'll be talking a little bit about the most famous ones that are out there and what our thoughts are and why do we think some of these are remade. So one of the ones I think has been redone so many times and I think it will never die off is Dracula for sure. There's been so many of those.
Yeah, according to research, there's been over 200 variations
That's a
of
lot.
Dracula made for a feature film.
That's a lot. 200?
The story, much like Dracula Never Dies,
No, and it
it's
gets
easy to be
revamped. Ha,
retold.
get it? Revamped.
Revamped, yes.
Made a joke.
Bloody lovely.
Another one that's been remade a few times is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, for better or worse, the original movie is quite different than the style that they are making today.
And I have a little facts here. It says the worst one was in 2013, the Texas Chainsaw 3D. The what it says here is a messy sequel turned soft reboot with ridiculous dialogue and a weak story, which I don't even remember that one, so it must not be very good.
You know, let's come back to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay.
I'm actually going to look this up right
Okay.
now on the air.
And then the best one would have been the 2003 one. It was brutal and intense remake.
Yeah, that was a great one. That was the one with Jessica Biel.
Yeah, I know why you
And the
liked it.
movie was great too.
But it was cool because it was a different new take on the Leatherface, right? That's when we really kind of like saw not saw his face, but he kind of had the new
Uh,
mask, I think, on that one, right?
yeah.
So I think that was the best one.
Texas Chainsaw 3D,
Mm-hmm.
that one, I actually enjoyed that one from 2013.
Really?
It,
I did not.
hey, it
Stupid.
stars Alexandra Daddario and Tanya Ramon. Alexandra, you would know her from the Mayfair Witches.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was the one where the secret of the movie was she was a relative, abandoned at birth or taken at birth
Mm-hmm.
from the family and come back and
Mm.
reclaim the house. And
I don't know. I didn't
it
like
was
that one.
bad. It was a bad storyline. It
And
had
it
good gore.
and it ended
That's what
weird.
I like.
I remember it ending weird. Like it didn't really like I don't know. It just ended very abruptly, and I didn't
Yeah.
kind of like the way it ended. Another famous remake that they have out there is Halloween, and I don't know. I think the last three have been the best ones
So Halloween
for
is
me.
one of my favorite series,
Yeah.
and the last three are a direct continuation of the original
Mm-hmm.
Halloween,
Mm-hmm.
John Carpenter's Halloween from the
Mm-hmm.
70s. The direct sequel from that. So every other movie that's been produced has basically been canceled.
Right.
Those
Because they
storylines,
revamped it.
yeah, so you just cut the bullshit.
Yeah, and Michael goes absolutely crazy. Like
Yeah.
he like there's it's a huge killing spree he goes through.
Exactly, but those are direct sequels to the original. There is, however, a different universe, which is a remake of the series
Mm-hmm.
made by Rob Zombie.
Mm-hmm. Which I liked, but I know
The
there's people that
first
didn't.
one
Yeah.
is, as far as I'm concerned, it is my favorite remake. It's
Really?
the best
I
remake.
wouldn't say it's my favorite.
He delves into the story, and I know people don't like it because they just want Michael to be mysterious and psycho killer,
Supernatural.
supernatural, but
Mm.
he's not supernatural in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's an extremely disturbed child,
Right.
and that makes for a great serial killer.
Mhm. He's
And
really
they
one of my
delve into
favorites.
why.
Yeah.
Why is he so crazy? Why is he so psycho? And that's what I love about it.
Yeah. It's the mystery of why Michael ticks. Because is it supernatural? Is it mental illness? Is
Yeah.
it that he's just a psycho? No one really knows, and that's the
No,
mystery of it.
nobody knows, and
Right.
that's why it's a great character to have different takes on.
Right. Another one would have been Amityville Horror. Now, that one's been remade a few times.
Definitely has.
I got a few little notes here. For my favorite one is the Ryan Reynolds one. I really enjoyed that one. I think him portraying as the killer, I forget his name now. I think I don't know, he did it so well that you see the beginning of the movie, he's happy, he's he's really like connected to his family, and he's connecting with his adopted children,
Yeah.
and then you see the progression of where he
The darkness
goes.
takes him over.
Yeah, it goes dark, and he lets the possession take over, and he lets the evil entity kind of control him. The worst one apparently is it's a low budget Amityville sequel spin-off.
Right.
Titles Amityville The Awakening in 2017
The
and Amityville
Awakening.
Haunting in 2011.
Oh yeah, that's on here too.
Yeah.
So I'm on imdb.com and there are 25 different
Yeah.
movies
There's a
related
lot.
to the original Amityville case that
Right.
was investigated by the Warrens and
Right.
made famous by them.
Yes.
And I don't think any of these movies have any connection to each other. They
No.
are literally all remakes
Of the story.
of the story,
Yeah.
of the original story.
There's no sequel because there wouldn't be a sequel. Actually, there is a sequel, but it really didn't do its justice. But the remakes, I find it's hit and miss. There is rumor that the Conjuring series, they are going to do an Amityville 1 eventually, because
Yes.
Lorraine and Ed Warren did investigate. They weren't part of the whole thing, the beginning, but they did investigate after the killings, after the murders. And they did have that famous picture that if you ever want to be creeped out, look it up. It's the famous picture from Lorraine Warren's investigation. And it's this little boy that appears at a doorway, and the house was completely empty. And the picture is very eerie. It's
Yeah, and that
creepy.
is actually in the opening scene of the first Conjuring movie in 2013.
Yes.
And they actually show a glimpse of that boy
Yes.
in the scene.
Yes. It is. I don't know. I
So
just.
if that crew expanded on that story, had a dedicated movie to that story, I think that would make it. Are you good there?
I'm good. I had to sneeze.
Don't worry, I'll
Sorry.
edit this shit out.
That's okay.
Okay.
I'm good. Just had to sneeze. I'm good.
So yeah, I do believe that if the crew that did the original Amityville, the original Conjuring does Amityville, I think they'll do it justice.
I think so, because those
Yeah.
movies in the series are done so well, and I think they bring out the horror aspect, of the supernatural aspect, the intense music, the intense visual effects. It's
Yeah.
really, they do it justice in all the horror movies they've done so far. I have here also on my list Carrie. Now a lot of people don't really think Carrie is horror, but I think it is. At
Scary is
least.
definitely horror. It's horror, but it's not like a slasher horror.
Mhm.
It's definitely supernatural horror.
Mhm.
You know, this young girl has psychokinetic or telekinetic power,
Mhm.
and she has an ultra religious mother that suppresses her, which brings that power out. And there's bullies in the school, which brings that power out. And eventually, she gets her revenge, and all hell breaks loose.
Yeah. Typical mom, the overpowering mom, right?
Yeah, and the original one with Sissy Spacek, that one was good, but because of the time that it's made, it
Mhm.
it doesn't have the special effects that hold up,
Mhm.
and it doesn't have
Yeah.
like the storyline just doesn't really move
Yeah.
on too much.
It's like what we just covered on the last episode about classics.
Yeah,
They
and
just.
the newer version, that one with Chloe Grace Moore, it's she does a really good job as Carrie,
Mhm.
and
Well,
the special effects are way better. The storyline progresses much more interestingly.
it's funny that you say that, because it's actually considered the worst one. Carrie
Really?
2013, despite the great
I
cast,
actually liked it.
Chloe and Julianne Moore,
Yeah.
this remake
And
added
Julianne Moore
nothing
did
to
great as the
nothing
mom.
new, and lacked raw emotion by Brian De Paula in its 1976 classic. The
Yeah.
best version that they say it is the 2002 TV movie. While not perfect, this version stuck closer to Stephen King's novel and had a
Mm.
solid performance from Angela Beatis. So I
If you
guess
get
it.
the chance, read the book. The book is really good.
I don't read.
Audio
I'm
book.
just kidding.
I
I'm just
actually
kidding.
I
I
actually
do.
read it on
Um,
audiobook,
but
so
again, it's all in the viewer's perspective. Some people
definitely.
like some versions, some people don't. Now comes the great question: is can a remake be better than the original?
Can the remake be better than the original? And that question is answered by your statement that you just made
Yeah.
prior. It's all in the opinion of the viewer.
Yeah. But in your opinion, can it do its justice? Can it be better?
So some remakes where there's such a long period of time in between,
Mm,
like you mentioned, Carrie
yeah.
or even Halloween,
Mm,
because there's such a stark difference in between the time periods
mm,
that they're made, the technology that it's made with. most of the time people are going to say the newer version is better, unless you're a hardcore fan
Yeah.
and you're saying, well, why in the hell are they messing with this? Because if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I'm more of that generation where just don't touch it.
Yeah,
If it's good the first time, leave it as is. If you want to do a sequel, I don't mind. Usually sequels are not that great either, but yeah, I think most of the time they get it right. And then there's the odd where you're just like you shouldn't have touched it. You
definitely.
should have just left it as the original. Another one that I have here is the Exorcist or Devil movies. Now there's so many out there. It could be made as as a remake or as a genre, as you mentioned it earlier when we were talking about doing this podcast. But really, there's so many Exorcist movies out there that
Hmm.
the basis is always the same:
Yeah,
the devil, demons, religion,
possession.
possession. But the stories all differ. There's not really one that's the same except for the extras, the sequels, and stuff like that. But there's a lot of them. And I don't
Yeah.
know, like, and you can
Well, in The Exorcist,
write so
the
much.
original Exorcist series, there is a couple of sequels
Mhm.
after the original,
There is. There's up to, I
and
think up
those
to
ones are
three.
kind of canceled as well in the same vein as Halloween with the new movie that recently came
Yeah.
out last year.
Yeah.
So that is considered now a direct continuation of the original, and those sequels that happened they're gone.
I could tell you, and we're going to touch on sequels on another episode, but I could tell you that the sequels for The Exorcist were not that great. They were really bad. They didn't do the original justice. They didn't bring out any
Honestly, I
other
didn't think the
information.
original was that great.
It was great for the time. Like if you think about it at the time, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
But at today's, no, it's not. Do you have any that you want to bring up that are remakes that you could think of other than the ones
that
I've
are
already?
better than the original.
Yeah, better than the original. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have a couple here. So I have a list, and it's the 10 worst horror movie remakes. And number one on this list is something I disagree with. I don't know if you've seen either of them, but there's a movie called Black Christmas.
Mm, remind me what it's about.
So Black Christmas is a story of man in the attic.
Oh
So there's a
yes,
sorority house,
yes, yes,
and there
yes.
was a murder years before it became a sorority house. And the killer was, well, we don't know this when you start watching the movie, but what happens is, spoiler alert from this old ass movie, uh, Black Christmas, it's actually been remade twice.
Mm.
Yeah, so the killer is, he lives in the attic. He's knocking off these sorority girls, okay? At Christmas time of all times. So great Christmas movie, but it was remade. It was from the 70s. This one, the one that I actually like, was remade in 2006. And that one, it kind of falls under the same vein of the storyline is a little more in depth,
Mm.
and the visual effects are, well, blows the original away because the original didn't have visual effects.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little more blood, a little more gore, a little more jump scare.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think it was better. But, not everyone thinks that they're better.
Here's another one that I think it's on my worst horror remakes, but I think they're wrong. Is Nightmare on Elm Street in 2010, which was the
Oh,
remake of the 1984 one. I thought that was good. I thought the effects were better. Like it just brought more of the storyline. I
so
don't.
yeah, if you go that way, the effects, even in 2010, blow away
The
anything from the
1984 one,
80s.
of course.
But you can't replace Robert Englund as
No,
Freddy Krueger.
no,
You just
no.
can't. I
That's
mean,
true.
that's like trying to replace James Earl Jones's voice as Darth Vader.
Yeah, but he
You
did a
just can't
pretty
do it.
good job. It's just he's not,
If you've never
the
seen any of
original.
the originals, then sure, he did a good job. But
Yeah,
if you're a fan of the original, you're
which I love him because he's funny as hell.
and in the remake, he's not funny.
Yeah.
He is a
Mm.
serious pedophile, child abusing serial killer, and they focus on that
Which we don't condone, by the way.
in the movie. No, we don't. And it's only kind of alluded to in the
Right.
originals. And Freddy in the
Hmm.
originals is a very comedic character.
And speaking of comedy, The Mummy. It's considered a horror. I think it's
So
funny. I think it's comedy action or
it
action comedy.
it definitely is in the Brendan Fraser era,
Mm.
in the original era, in the, when do you have the dates?
Yeah,
1920s?
1959.
Oh, 1950s.
Yeah, the
Okay.
notable remake included Hammer Horrors, The Mummy, 1959, the action adventure The Mummy, 1999,
Yeah.
and the Tom Cruise one in 2017.
So the Universal monsters
Mm.
from, that early era
Yeah, they were horrible.
Dracula, Frankenstein, the
Yeah.
werewolf, the mummy. For that time period, the mummy was frightening.
Yeah.
It was considered horror.
Mhm.
Today, I don't think they can make a scary horror movie with the mummy because of our misconceptions of it now.
I think they could still make a pretty good scary one if they really, really tried. I think they can. I think they can. It just depending on the storyline. Like when we watched the Brendan Fraser one, when he gets out of the coffin, not the coffin, the casket or whatever they're called, sarcophagus. Thank you,
Sarcophagus. Yeah.
sarcophagus. I was a little bit like, oh, that's kind of creepy. Like the way he came out, he's all like
Oh
decomposed
yeah,
and
he
like
was all decayed
this
and
is
whatnot,
gross,
and
right?
the effects were good too,
Hmm.
but it wasn't scary.
Okay. What is your favorite remake? I know we touched on a few and we said we
Yeah.
liked, but what is your favorite one?
So I did mention my favorite horror remake
Right.
is Rob Zombie's Halloween,
Right.
and I touched on why.
Yep.
If I had to pick something other than that,
Hmm.
there's one here that I don't always think of, but I absolutely love this movie. 2004, Dawn of the Dead.
I'm not a fan of.
Ah, that is
I'm
great.
not a
What a
zombie.
great movie. I love zombie
I
movies.
don't like zombies.
And the Dawn of the Dead, George Romero's classic, is totally done justice
Mm.
with this movie.
I don't know. I just don't like zombie movies. You're on your own on this one. I'm like,
Because,
you know when you everyone's watching The Walking Dead and I'm just I don't get it. I tried watching it and I just can't get into it. It's just not my thing.
well,
I think it's
The
just
Walking Dead jumped the shark at a certain point, but
like it's like watching the Brad Pitt one.
World War Z.
Yeah, World War Z.
Yeah.
I liked it, but it was, or even I Am Legend.
I
I
Am
just,
Legends is good.
it's good because it's action packed and Will Smith does a good job. But I don't know, I'm just not a zombie, not a
Well,
zombie girl.
you don't have to be a zombie girl, but
Emo.
I do think that is a very good remake. I put that at the top of my
Right.
list.
It is a good remake. I think they did a good job at it, but it's not one of my favorites. My favorite would be the Texas Chainsaw Massacres. I love that storyline. I know I'm weird, but I just like that people are stranded on the road and they go up to a house and can I use your phone? No one does that, and you shouldn't be doing that.
No, when you watch,
And just the leather face of him
yeah,
taking people's faces and making it into his
and
own,
making it
and
into his
the
own.
cannibalism is so creepy and gross, and
But the people
they're like
at the
rednecks.
times in the 70s, they would be, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, naive. And the dog's playing with a squeak toy,
So if
of
you hear squeak,
course.
it's just our dog playing
Don't
squeak.
worry about it. But yeah, the people in the 70s were portrayed as being very naive. So they're going to pick up this sturdy looking hitchhiker, like, no
Yeah,
way. We saw a hitchhiker on the
we
road
did
today.
today.
Who's
We
picking this guy
we
up?
both
Come
were
on.
like, should we pick him up?
You're asking for trouble.
No, we're both not picking him up.
No way.
But I do like that they every time they remake it or even do sequels of it, I really enjoyed
Yeah.
watching them because
And they always
it's
ramp up the
mindless.
intensity.
Yeah, it's mindless. You watch it and it's you know what's gonna happen, but you don't know how it's gonna
Yeah.
happen, and when he I don't know, I just love watching those. Those are like one of my favorite ones. So why do you think they make so many? Like what points do they remake? Like why
Money.
so many?
Money.
Money?
The studios want, a cash cow. So these movies, why are they keep getting remade
Yeah.
or sequels being made?
Mm.
Nightmare,
Do,
Chainsaw, Halloween,
do
Friday
you
the
think
13th.
it's like a demand they
The fans
know?
are
Yeah, the demand of the fans, like
the
they.
demand of the fans for sure,
Hmm.
generations too,
Yeah,
because you can introduce these characters to a
that's
whole new
true.
generation that maybe their parents have talked about,
Hmm.
and they've seen one of the old ones and they're like, oh, this is kind of cool. But now
Hmm.
if it's remade in a modern time where this generation can relate to it,
Yeah.
I think that the generational gaps is what makes remakes so good.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's money. I think it's also people wanting more of a certain genre, a certain character.
Yeah.
Like they see the amount of money that Halloween makes. Michael Myers is a very popular horror character.
Yes.
Jason is a very known horror character.
Uh-huh.
And then you look at Hellraiser. No one knows Pinhead. Like,
Well,
unless you've seen it,
I think people have seen the image of
but
Pinhead.
they don't know what the story is. And they
I've
have
never seen one Hellraiser
there you
movie, but I
go.
know who Pinhead is.
Right. And then like Chucky. Like they've made Chucky's, but mostly sequels.
Okay, so Chucky, Child's Play is one of my favorite series, and it's one that kind of slipped my mind until you brought it up.
Right.
They did remake Child's Play, and they never should have touched it.
There you
and
go.
and it's corny and it's cheesy, and I love Chucky. This guy, you can't kill him no matter what. He just keeps replicating himself with his voodoo. Chucky was so good that he got his own television series. So how many iconic horror characters
Have a TV series.
got their own
I
television
know.
series? We're still waiting for Jason to have a series. Like this,
But
that's one that never should
this
have been remade.
this is like Chucky is like the I think where people had fear of dolls. I think Chucky kind
Yeah.
of started it because those blinky and we'll have an episode about dolls, but like those blinky
Mm-hmm.
eye
And a
dolls and
slight movement.
yeah. So I went to a house once that had like 1,000 dolls, and it's all those porcelain
Yeah, I've
skin,
been there as
a
well.
porcelain face. I mean, with the little blinky eyes, and you're 100% sure that doll in the middle moved her head. You're
And its
100%
eyes are
sure,
following
and
you.
your eyes are following you. And
Yes.
I think that's where my fear of
I
dolls
mean,
came from, is
what the
Mr.
hell is
Chucky.
Annabelle looking at right now?
So Annabelle is right in front of me, and she's looking like towards me, but not at me. And
Past you.
every once in a while,
That
we're convinced she moves.
it's not in the same position it was
No.
the other day.
And if you missed the last episode, we have the Annabelle doll from the Conjuring series and not Raggedy Ann. I refuse to get Raggedy Ann because that's way too close to the actual Annabelle doll. And if you don't know who Annabelle the doll is, I would strongly suggest you look her up. It's in the Occult Museum at Lorraine and Ed's house. They have passed, both of them, but their museum is still there. I don't think it's open to the public anymore. It was of it at one point. From the rumors that are surrounding this museum, it is blessed daily or weekly by a priest.
Mm-hmm.
All cursed objects from
Yeah.
every investigation they ever did
Mm-hmm.
is in this museum.
And we're stupid enough to have a replica sitting in our room here.
It's just a replica. It's no
Yeah.
harm.
Yeah, and
No.
Chucky had many replicas too that he passed his essence
So
into.
if we start seeing little notes say want to play, then we'll get really worried. That's a great prank to pull on someone.
What's that?
You bring their doll to their house and you have little crayon want to play notes everywhere.
I have another remake here that I want to talk about that I
Sure.
know you've never watched. Stephen King's It.
Nope. I refuse to watch any clown movie.
Stephen
Refuse.
King's It instilled horror and terror in so many people back in the 80s, or maybe it was the 90s. I can't remember when. It was late 80s, early 90s. That mini series it was a television mini series, actually, the original movie. And that character Pennywise, that movie doesn't hold up today. It is so cheesy and the effects are so bad that it warranted a remake. And the remake was good. It was creepy.
So on my list of best horror movies is It. It's a remake of the 2017 one. It's a
Yes.
remake of 1990.
Oh, it was
It's
right on 1990.
yeah,
Okay.
remake of the 1990. It's miniseries.
Yeah.
Bill
Skarsgård.
Skarsgård.
Yes.
Love the Skarsgård clan, the
Yep.
dad, the brothers. I love them in everything they do. They're really great actors. He's the Pennywise and is deeply unsettling, and the film nails the balance between horror and coming of age storytelling.
Yeah.
Now again, I haven't seen it. I refuse to see it, but I've heard very, very good comments about it and reviews. So if you like clowns, check it out.
Or don't like clowns, check it out anyways.
Nope.
And face your fears.
No, there was one Halloween actually here at our house. So one of our neighbors in our survey was dressed up as
Oh
Pennywise.
my goodness.
And our dear Corey invited him up towards me. I literally froze. There's a video of it. Froze. I could not move. I just literally wanted to like run and hide and punch the guy at the same time.
Well, you did punch the clown at the Casaloma haunted
Legends
house.
of Terror?
Legends
Yes.
of Terror. Yeah.
Yes, I did punch him.
Yeah, you screamed so loud you actually scared
I did,
him.
and I punched him. I apologized after that, but yes, he got a pretty good punch out because I didn't realize there was going to be clowns. And stupid me, it's part of terror and horror. There should be clowns, but I didn't realize there was going to be at the castle. But anyways, let's move on. I don't want to talk about clowns anymore. Here's a good question. Why do you think most or almost most of those remakes never bring some of the original casts?
Well, in some cases, they may not be with us anymore.
True. Well, obviously, but
In other cases,
I'm talking about people that are still alive.
people that are still alive,
Right.
a lot of times in horror, actors get typecast as that character, and they are associated with being that character for their entire careers. And all they want to do is shake that notion that they are forever going to be Laurie Strode,
Scream Queen.
or they're
Mm.
always going to be Freddy Krueger, or
Mm.
whoever it is.
Mm.
And we know now those actors, Robert Englund, Jamie Lee Curtis, they embrace those characters.
Yeah.
But sometimes actors don't want to go back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They don't want to have people always referring to them as that when they have this huge body of work
Yeah.
that they're so proud of, right? So sometimes they do come back though. Sometimes they come back in minor roles as the same character if it's in the same universe. If it's a sequel, sometimes if it's a remake, they'll appear maybe in a minor cameo, you know, someone in the background, some this little nod to the fans.
See, I think bringing back the original, at least one or two of the original casts, I think it just brings more depth to the movie that you're kind of tying the original to the new.
Yes.
And I think it just brings respect for me, anyways.
Yeah.
It brings respect, an homage to the original. I always ask that whenever we watch. They should have brought so and so. They should have brought like, or at least one of the characters back. I think it
Yeah.
just brings back. It makes you nostalgic a little bit. You're bringing them back.
Yeah, and I seem to always be going back to Halloween.
Well, yes, 'cause
Halloween
it's
4 and
one of
Halloween
them.
5 are considered by a lot of fans to be two of the best Halloween movies, and they are directly tied to each other.
Mhm.
And they feature Danielle Harris as a very young girl, and she's the daughter of Laurie Strode
Right.
in the movie,
Right.
and she's the subject of Michael Myers' desire
Mhm.
to kill, basically.
Right.
But then, nearly 20 years later, she returned in Rob Zombie's Halloween, as an adult.
Yeah.
But not playing the same character, playing a different character. So sometimes the actors do come back to the movie, movie
Mhm.
remake, because they do love being part of it.
Yeah, and I think they should always bring back the original, at least one of the original casts for me.
Yeah, a lot of
And I
times
do
it does
agree.
happen.
Sometimes these actors don't want to be typecast as always in horror movies, and there's a lot of them. There's just I'm trying to find this one actress that plays a little girl in all these movies. Now she's kind of growing up. She has brown hair, and she's in every horror movie that I've ever watched. Where there's a little girl, she's in. I'm trying to find it as we're
Which
talking.
movie?
She's been in so many that I can't remember which one she's been. That's how my brain
Well,
works.
that doesn't help
I know.
me.
Anyways, let's move
Because I
on.
can probably tell you who it is if you give me a title.
No, I can't think of it right now. But
But when
anyways,
you think of it, let me know.
in episode 2, there was a moment where we weren't sure of the movie about those twin girls.
Oh, right.
Karen, thank you, girl. She reminded me it's actually from. I just forgot about it. It's a Stephen King one. What's
The
The
Shining?
Shining?
The
Yes,
Shining.
The Shining.
Okay,
So shout
that's
out
what
to
it
Karen.
is.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for the comments. For the people who gave us some comments about our podcast, it's really appreciated. Let's end this off as, do we like remakes or don't we like remakes? I don't mind remakes if it's properly done, if the storyline can go a little astray from the original, but I do like it that they kind of tie in a little bit of the original.
Yeah.
And I do like when they bring back some or all the characters.
Yeah, I do like when remakes pay homage to iconic
Yeah.
scenes from the original.
Yes.
Okay, and they tie it into a new storyline, and it makes you go, "Oh, hey, I remember when that happened in
Mhm.
the original movie. Oh, it's a little bit different, but I like that."
Yeah.
So yeah, it does get people's nostalgic juices flowing.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of a remake, I think, for me.
Yeah.
Sequels are different. Sequels, you kind of have to follow the pattern.
Yeah, sequels
And
are just continuation of a
yeah,
storyline.
but sometimes they change it, which we'll talk about in another episode.
Hmm.
But I think remakes are really, they're great if they're done right.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's it for our podcast today. Thank you for listening, and we do appreciate any feedback you guys have. And the next episode will be next week. It'll be about
Oh,
serious versus funny movies. Sorry.
serious versus funny.
Yes, in horror movies.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, I think I'm leaning towards funny.
Of course you are. So that's it for us on this podcast. Thank you for listening. Let
Thank
us
you
know
so
your
much.
comments, suggestions, and don't forget to click and like us. Click and follow us, sorry.
Follow us, subscribe to us, like us, love us.
Share us.
All
All
right.
right, everyone. Peace out.
Take care.